అన్ని పెట్టుకోరా అని చెప్పా నాకు రేట్ తీసుకుంటావు తినుకుంటూ అన్ని పెట్టుకోరా అని చెప్పాను అంబ్రెల్లా పెట్టుకో ఏమంటే వాడు ఫోన్ అంటే ఇస్తున్నావా
ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది ఐఫోన్ దుప్పటి మనం పెట్టాలి ఒకసారి
దింగి మళ్ళీ
సిమ్ లేదు
మరి ఆ పిల్లర్స్ కింద దాని సంచి కింద ఉందో ఇంకో ఇక్కడ ఉంది చూపించేది జాగ్రత్త
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram 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 Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram. Krishna Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Ram Ram Ram. 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna. Hope I'm audible. Hare Bol. Okay, anybody wants to do Mangalacharan? Madhya Mataji or Muralidhar Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Acharan.
Nano Nams.
There.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sriguru Sriyutapadakamlam Sriguru Vaishnavamscha Srirupam Sagrajatah Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा प्रभु माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम।
Okay, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So let's start. Okay, one second, I'll get my book. Okay, Bhagavad Gita 6.46 చదవాలి ఈరోజు. 1 minute. I'll share my screen. Yeah. So today seems to be very auspicious day. That is Guru Purnima. Thank you, Giriraj Prabhu, for creating such a wonderful platform. Thank you to you and Lavanya Mataji. So before starting here, I think I suggest let us chant 3 times Mahamantra to all gurus who came in our life till now, including Giriraj Prabhu and Lavanya Mataji and Leelanda Prabhu, Anu Mataji and Balagovinda Prabhu, and our spiritual masters. Let's remember our spiritual masters, initiated gurus, because I am not naming because everyone may have different. Just remember them. And of course, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and
Yeah.
all the gurus who came in our life, who came previously and who are in my life, and who are going to come in future as well. Yeah. So let's remember all of them. With heartful thanking them, let's chant 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, okay.
So let's chant together. All of us closing our eyes, thoughtfully 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And ultimately,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
okay, hope my screen is visible. Madhvi Mataji did a good recitation yesterday. So Madhvi Mataji, you want to read and then we'll reset. You want to reset and then we'll repeat.
ప్రభుజీ హరే కృష్ణ. బయట ఉన్న ప్రభుజీ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది, కొంచెం
Yeah.
తర్వాత చేసి
Okay, నేను చదువుతున్నాను.
సారీ ప్రభుజీ.
Problem. ఓకే, మురళీధర్ ప్రభు మీరు రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తారా లేకపోతే నన్ను చేయమంటారు? బుక్ ఉందా మీ దగ్గర? ఓకే, ఐ విల్ డూ ఇట్. సో లెట్ ఎవ్రీవన్ రిపీట్. తపస్వి భో దిఖో యోగి, తపస్వి భో దిఖో యోగి, జ్ఞానిభ్యోపి మదోదికః,
ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मदोदितः,
కర్మభ్యాసాధికో యోగి,
कर्मभ्यासाधिको योगी,
తస్మాద్యోగి భావర్జున.
तस्माद्योगी भवार्जुन.
Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you. Let us recite together. Once I will read it and then you repeat. Tapasvi bhodiko yogi jnana bhuyopi matodikaha karma bhyashyadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Chadun Prabhu.
तपस्वी भोयो लपेंद्र तपस्वी भोयो धिको योगी ज्ञान ज्ञानी भो
ज्ञानभ्योपि मतोदिकः
ज्ञानिभ्यो ज्ञानभ्योऽपि मतो धिकः
कर्मभ्यासाधिको योगी
कर्मभ्यास्य धिकोऽपि योगी
तस्मद्योगी भवार्जुना.
तस्माद्योगी भवार्जुन.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody wants to read English? Okay. Otherwise, I will read it. Mahatma Prabhu, Mahatma Ramachandra Prabhu. Chauthar English. Madhavi Mataji bite on now. Okay, I will read it. No problem. I will. Okay. A yogi is greater than ascetic, greater than empirics, and a greater than a fruitivity worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances become yogi. అని చెప్పారన్నమాట. ఓకే, అంటే యోగి తపస్వి కన్నాను అధికుడు, జ్ఞాని కన్నాను అధికుడు, కామ్య కర్మ రతుల కన్నాను అధికుడు. ఓ అర్జున, అన్ని పరిస్థితుల్లోనూ యోగిని కావాల్సింది. ప్రభుజీ, మురళీధర్ ప్రభు, నా వాయిస్ వినబడుతుంది కదా మంచిగా?
వస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ.
ఓకే ఓకే. యోగి తపస్వి కన్నాను అధికుడు, జ్ఞాని కన్నాను అధికుడు, కామ్య కర్మ రతుని కన్నాను అధికుడు. ఓ అర్జున, అందుకే అన్ని పరిస్థితుల్లోనూ యోగిని కావాలి అని చెప్పారు అన్నమాట. వెరీ నైస్. సో 47. దిస్ ఈస్ ద లాస్ట్ శ్లోక టుడే. అంటే ఈ 47 ఈ చాప్టర్లో 6th చాప్టర్లో లెట్ us read it. Okay. Yeah, 47 is the last sloka. యోగి నామపి
ముందు కాలేదు ప్రభుజీ. హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ, 43 వరకే అయినాయి కదా నిన్న. 42 వరకే అంతే.
47 ప్రభు, 6th చాప్టర్.
అవును, 6th చాప్టర్ 43 వరకే కదా అనేది. 43, 42 అయినాయి.
నిన్న చదివాం కదా ప్రభు.
నిన్న ఎంత 46 వరకు అయినాయా
ప్రభు? 45 వరకు చదివాం ప్రభు నిన్న.
అవునా? అంటే
నేను పిక్చర్ కూడా పెట్టాను.
సరే, ఓకే ప్రభు.
మీరు నిన్న జాయిన్ అవ్వలేదు.
ప్రసాదానికి ఆడిలో ఉన్నాడు.
అవును, నిన్న ప్రసాదం పోయినా కదా. ఓకే ఓకే. సరే సారీ ప్రభుజీ.
మీరు మర్చిపోయారు.
నేను
నిన్న
నేను
జాయిన్
నిన్న
అవ్వలేదు.
క్లాస్ రాలే, నేను మొన్నటి చెప్తున్నాను.
నేను అదే చెప్తున్నాను.
ఓకే ఓకే.
ఓకే,
ఓకే
47.
గురూజీ, కరెక్ట్. నిన్న సర్వీస్ ఉండేది నాకు, కరెక్ట్.
ఓకే. యోగినామపి సర్వేషాం
యోగినామపి సర్వేషాం
మద్గతేనాంత ఆత్మన
మద్గతేరాంతనాత్మనా
శ్రద్ధవాన్ భజతే యో మాం
శ్రద్ధావాన్ భజతే యో మాం
ఓకే. సమే సమే యుక్తతమో మతః
సమే యుక్తతమో మతః
యా యోగినామపి సర్వేషాం మద్గతేనాంతరాత్మన శ్రద్ధవాన్ భజతే యో మాం సమే యుక్తతమో మతః.
యోగినామపి సర్వేషాం మద్గతేనాంతరాత్మనా శ్రద్ధావాన్ భజతే యో మాం సమే యుక్తతమో మతః.
యా వెరీ నైస్, వెరీ నైస్.
హరే
ట్రాన్స్లేషన్
కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ, దండవత్ ప్రణామాలు.
చదువు.
యోగినామపి సర్వేషాం మద్గతేనాంతరాత్మనా శ్రద్ధావాన్ భజతే యో మాం సమే యుక్తా తమో మతః. శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదుల వారి అనువాదము. అత్యంత శ్రద్ధతో నా భావన ఎందే సదా నిలచి ఉండువాడును, నన్నే తన ఎందు సదా స్మరించువాడును, నాకు దివ్యమైన ప్రేమయుక్త సేవను చేయువాడును అగో యోగి యోగులందరికంటేను అత్యంత సన్నిహితముగా నాతో యోగమున కూడినట్టి వాడై ఉండును. యోగులందరిలోకి అతడే అత్యున్నతుడు. ఇదే నా అభిప్రాయం. హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ.
థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ ప్రభు, సో వండర్ఫుల్. హూ కెన్ రీడ్ ఇట్? రాజు ప్రభు హియరింగ్ నో. ఓకే, లలితమ్మ. ఎనీబడి ఈజ్ దేర్ టు రీడ్ ఇంగ్లీష్?
Yeah, for translation, Prabhu, I'll read.
ఆ ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ చదవండి.
Yeah. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders the transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Thank you, Prabhu.
థ్యాంక్ యూ లలిత మోహన్ బాబు, వండర్ఫుల్. ఓకే, ఒకసారి నేను తెలుగులో చదువుతాను. సో అత్యంత శ్రద్ధతో సర్వదా నా ఇందే కట్టుబడి ఉండేవాడు. ఇంత క్లియర్గా చెప్పాడు చూడండి. అత్యంత శ్రద్ధతో నా ఎందే కట్టుబడి ఉండేవాడు, తన యందు నన్నే స్మరించేవాడు. వావ్. సో నా యందు కట్టుబడి ఉండేవాడు, తన్నే స్మరించేవాడు. అంటే భక్తి యోగానికి వెళ్ళిపోతున్నారు 6th చాప్టర్లోంచి. ఆ లాస్ట్ శ్లోక బ్రిడ్జి శ్లోక లాగా ఉంటుంది ఆ నెక్స్ట్ చాప్టర్. సో నాకు దివ్యమైన ప్రేమయుత సేవ చేసేవాడు, ఇక్కడ చెప్పేశారు. ప్రేమయుత సేవ చేసేవాడు ఆయన యోగి. యోగులందరిలో నాతో అత్యంత సన్నిహితంగా యోగంలో జతకూడినవాడు. ఇంతకుముందు ఏమన్నారంటే తపస్సు కన్నాను అధికుడు ఎవరు? యోగి. జ్ఞాని కన్నాను అధికుడు, కామ్యకర్మ రత్న కన్నాను యోగి అధికుడు అని చెప్పారనమాట. ఇప్పుడు ఆ యోగుల్లో ఎవరు బెస్టో చెప్తున్నాడు అనమాట. ఆ భక్తి యోగి అందరి యోగుల్లోకి వెళ్ళి బెస్ట్ అని చెప్పేశాడు ఇక్కడ. ప్రేమ విశ్వాస చేసేవాడు అయినటువంటి యోగి యోగులందరిలోనూ నాతో అత్యంత సన్నిహితంగా యోగంలో చదువుకుంటున్నట్టు వాడు, అందరిలో అతడే ఉన్నతుడు. ఇది నా అభిప్రాయం. ఎవరన్నా బాబు మీరు భక్తి యోగాన్ని ఎందుకు చేస్తున్నారు, ఇన్ని యోగాలు భగవద్గీతలో చెప్పారు కదా అంటే లలిత మోహన్ ప్రభు మనం ఈ శ్లోక కోట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, అంతే కదా. అంటే ఇది ఒక్కటే కాదు, ఇంకా చాలా మంది ఉంటాయి. బట్ డెఫినెట్లీ దిస్ ఈస్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ద శ్లోక విచ్ వీ కుడ్ కోట్. బాబు 6th చాప్టర్లో లాస్ట్ శ్లోకాలో కృష్ణుడే చెప్పాడమ్మా, అన్ని యోగాలు యోగా బెస్ట్ అన్నాడు, యోగం బెస్ట్ అన్నాడు, యోగి బెస్ట్ అన్నాడు, యోగి కమ్మని చెప్పాడు. 46లో 47లో ఇంకా భక్తి యోగి చేయమని చెప్పాడు. భక్తి యోగి బెస్ట్ అన్నాడు అందరి యోగాల్లో అని అన్ని యోగులు అని చెప్పచ్చు. యా, హరే కృష్ణ. థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభు, థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. So we are reading Prabhupada Leelamritam. Okay, such a wonderful relation we had yesterday. Okay, that is we read it till here. Okay, so ఈ చాప్టర్ ఏంటంటే అరౌండ్ ద వరల్డ్ బట్ అబ్సార్బ్డ్ ఇన్ బాంబే. సో బాంబేలో ఆ టెంపుల్ కట్టడానికి మా డైటీస్ అవి తెచ్చారు, అక్కడ పెట్టారు. పెట్టిన తర్వాత ప్రభుపాదుల వారు మొత్తం మళ్ళీ ప్రపంచం చుట్టాల్సిన అవసరం వచ్చిందనమాట. సో అవి అక్కడ వాళ్ళని చూసుకోమని చెప్పి గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభుకి, హిజ్ హోలీనెస్ గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభుజీకి ఇచ్చేసి ఆ రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీస్, మేనేజర్ రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీస్ ఇచ్చేసి ఆయన అక్కడి నుంచి మూవ్ అయ్యారు అనమాట. మూవ్ అయిన తర్వాత ఏం జరుగుతుంది అనేది మనం ఇప్పుడు చదువుతున్నాం. ఓకేనా? ఓకే, హరే కృష్ణ. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. ఓకే, సో యాక్చువల్గా అయితే మనం 3 శ్లోకాస్ చదువుతాము. ఫస్ట్ శ్లోక చదివేద్దామా? 7వ అధ్యాయంలో 2నే చదివాం ఈరోజు. ఓకే, చదివేద్దాం, ఏం కాదు. ఓకే, అంటే కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయిందని నేను ఆపాను, బట్ ఇట్స్ ఓకే. వి విల్ రీడ్ ఫస్ట్ శ్లోక ఆల్సో. మనం భక్తి యోగాలోకి గురు పూర్ణిమ రోజు ఎంటర్ అయినట్టు ఉంటుంది. వి విల్ రీడ్ ఫస్ట్ శ్లోక. యా, వెరీ నైస్. 8వ అధ్యాయం పేరు భగవద్విజ్ఞానం జ్ఞానం. 7వ అధ్యాయం పేరు భగవద్విజ్ఞానం. యా, ఓకే. ఏంటంటే ద నాలెడ్జ్ ఆఫ్ అబ్సల్యూట్. ఓకేనా? హరే కృష్ణ. ఇక్కడ ఓకే, ప్రభుజీ లలిత్ మోహన్ ప్రభు మీరు చదువుతారు ప్రభు శ్లోక, నేను రిసైర్ చేస్తాం మీతో పాటు. ఫస్ట్ శ్లోక టుడే వ్యాస పూర్ణిమ రోజు వేర్ ఎంటరింగ్ ఇంటూ భక్తి యోగం. ఫస్ట్ శ్లోక.
శ్రీ భగవానువాచ
శ్రీ
మయ్యా
భగవాన్ వాచ.
How should I read, Prabhu? Every line I read and you repeat after me.
అంతే ప్రభు, మీరు ఒక లైన్ చదవండి ప్రభు, మీరు రిపీట్ చేసిన తర్వాత మొత్తం చదువుతారు, నేను రిపీట్ చేస్తాను.
Okay. మయ్యాసక్త మనా పార్థ యోగం యుంజన్మదాశ్రయః
యోగం యుజ్జన్మదాశ్రయః
అసంశయం సమగ్రం మాం యథా జ్ఞాస్యసి తశృణు. Now let's do the whole shloka. I request all of you to repeat. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Mayyasakta mana partha yogam yunjanmadashrayah asamshayam samagram mam yata jnasyasi tashrunu.
శ్రీ భగవానువాచ యోగం యుజ్జన్మదాశ్రయః అసంశయం సమగ్రం యథా జ్ఞాస్యసి
జ్ఞాస్యసి తశృణు. Thank you, Prabhu. Very wonderful reading. Okay, anybody wants to read English?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I read?
Chada.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Purport. In the 7th chapter.
We're not reading purport. No, wait.
Okay.
We're not reading purport. We are in Bhagavad Gita now. We just read sloka and translation. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Manoj. The Supreme Personality of the Godhead. Now here, O son of Pritha. So, first sloka in Bhakti Yoga, we are reading this. How by practicing yoga in full conscious of me, that is Bhakti Yoga, full conscious of Krishna. How much conscious we are, we have to ask ourselves. At least I have to ask myself in japa. So he's saying in full conscious of me, practicing Bhakti Yoga with mind attached to me. Mind attached avalante ayini. First conscious ayina undala, mind ayina attached avala. You can know me. Appudu ayina manaku baga telustaru. You can know me in full, free from doubt. Okay, Muralidhar Prabhu, Mataji, మీరు తెలుగులో చదువుతారా ఒకసారి?
హరే కృష్ణ.
హరే కృష్ణ. శ్రీ భగవానువాచ మయ్యాసక్తమనః పార్థ యోగం యుంజన్మదాశ్రయః అసంశయం సమగ్రం మాం యథా జ్ఞాస్యసి తశృణు. శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదుల వారి అనువాదం. శ్రీకృష్ణ భగవానుడు పలికెను, ఓ పార్థ, మనస్సును నాయందే సంలగ్నము చేసి నా సంపూర్ణ భావనలో యోగము అభ్యసించుట ద్వారా నిస్సందేహముగా నీవు నన్నెట్లు సమగ్రముగా ఎరగగలవో ఇప్పుడు వినుము. హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ.
బుధకుమార, థ్యాంక్ యూ మాతాజీ. ఓ బుధకుమార, మనస్సును నా యందే ఆసక్తము చేసిన సంపూర్ణ భావంలో యోగ సాధన ద్వారా ఏ విధంగా నీవు యోగ సాధన ద్వారా ఏ విధంగా నీవు నిస్సందేహంగా నన్ను పూర్తిగా తెలుసుకున్నావు ఇప్పుడు విను. ఓకే, ఆయన్ని మనం పూర్తిగా ఎలా తెలుసుకోవాలి? ఆయన మీద మెడిటేషన్ చేస్తున్నాం, ఆయన నామాన్ని మెడిటేషన్ చేస్తూ చెప్తాను అని చెప్పి 7th చాప్టర్ మొదలు పెట్టారనమాట. విత్ దట్ వీ హ్యావ్ స్టార్టెడ్ Bhakti Yoga today. So auspicious day. So Vyasa Purnima. Okay. And we started with Bhakti Yoga. So auspicious. Thank you very much for joining. Prabhuji's, Mataji's. So let us continue reading today also. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Leelamritam. His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada Leelamritam ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Let us see who will start today. Okay. Bhakti Mataji is in hearing mode till 9. That is fine. Ramachandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Danda
We
Pranam.
start చేస్తారు ఈరోజు వ్యాస పూర్ణిమ రోజు.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Start
you.
చేయండి.
Hare Krishna. Los Angeles దగ్గర నుంచి Prabhuji. Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna. Los Angeles, May 18, 1972. Word had spread that Srila Prabhupada wanted GBC secretaries to get out from behind their desks and preach, and 4 American GBC men eager to become sannyasis were waiting when Srila Prabhupada arrived in Los Angeles. Satswarupa. Prabhupada said that because we were taking sannyasa in the prime of youth, we had ample opportunity to do much more than he. He said he had taken sannyasa at the fag end of life, but that a little is better than nothing. Everyone laughed at the thought that we could do more than Prabhupada. One by one, we went to the Vyasasana, and Prabhupada gave us our Tridandas and said, "Now preach, preach, preach." Immediately afterward, Prabhupada had us up in his room. We asked him if there were any special instructions. He said there were 2 restrictions in sannyasa life. One was that when meeting a rich man and seeing his opulent wealth, we must not think, "Oh, I have given up everything, but I wish I could enjoy these things." And the other restriction was that when we see a beautiful woman, we must not think, "I had a beautiful wife, and now this beautiful woman is here. I could enjoy her." In other words, do not have any regrets about having taken sannyasa. Jagadisha. Prabhupada had all the GBC men come to Los Angeles, where some of them took sannyasa, and we discussed reapportioning preaching zones. We had one special meeting with Prabhupada. All the GBC men were sitting there in the room, and Prabhupada looked us all over. He said, "Are you all convinced?" We just sat there. Nobody said anything for about 2 minutes. It was one of the heaviest moments of my life. Prabhupada challenging us, "Are you convinced? Are you sincere?" As Prabhupada spoke, his GBC disciples listened intently. "As far as I am concerned," he said, "I am convinced. Therefore, I am pushing on. It is a fact. I am pushing on because it is fact, not fiction. That much I am personally convinced. Whenever someone says, 'You believe,' I say, 'No, I do not believe. It is fact.' So you must spread your conviction by your literature, arguments, preaching, facing opposing elements. But are you convinced? If you are not convinced, then it is not good for me. The first thing is enthusiasm. Don't be dead. You have to work more than me. Anyone who has life, he can preach." So the local president and treasurer of The temple will manage. The GBC can supervise that things are going on. But the first management is that each and every member is chanting 16 rounds and following the regulations. Otherwise, that is our spiritual strength. Okay, Prabhuji, shall I?
No, ఈ పేరా చదవండి ప్రభు, ఏం పర్లేదు.
Okay.
We have
Now
very
it
few.
is. Yeah, okay, Prabhuji. No problem. Thank you. Now it is in your hands. That was my plan to give it to the Americans. But you have to be spiritually strong. If superficially you want to be managers, it won't be good. And simply touring is not required. By traveling, you have to do something substantial to increase the society. At the time of Lenin, he had just a few men and he took over the entire country. It is up to you, spread God consciousness. Don't be stagnant. Go and preach. Your duty is to inform them. My dear American brothers, you have so much wealth and pleasure. Use it for Krishna. If not, it will be degradation.
చదవండి, ఈ ఒక
Srila
పేరా
Prabhu- Okay, Srila Prabhupada met with many US ISKCON leaders in Los Angeles and saw the wide array of Krishna consciousness activities in his Western world headquarters. He heard a new recording of Krishna bhajans performed with guitars and other Western instruments, produced at the devotee's own Golden Avatar studio, and he approved it, saying this is better than George Harrison. He visited the art studio where the devotees were painting illustrations for his books and he made suggestions. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. Anybody wants to read? No? Let me one Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I'll read, Prabhuji.
చదవండి మాతాజీ, వాణి మాత చదవండి.
Ananga Mandir, Prabhuji, చదవాల్సింది. Ananga Mandir. Prabhupada was going around looking at all the different temple offices. In one office, Karandhara was showing Prabhupada a new computer. Prabhupada, he said, all we have to do is type the word Rupa Goswami and then it will automatically write everything you have ever said or written down, written about Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada had been looking at the computer without showing much interest. But when Karnadhara said the name Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada raised his eyebrows and said, oh yes, everything can be used in Krishna's service. Please scroll the screen. Then we walked out of that office and went to the telex machine. Prabhupada sat before it in the chair and everyone stood around him while Karnadhara explained what the machine did. It can write a message all the way to New York and they can send a message back immediately. Srila Prabhupada, so Karnadhara typed on the telex machine. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please respond. There was no answer. So he typed it out again and again. There was no answer. So he typed it out again. And this time he typed out, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is sitting right next to the telex machine. Please respond. All of a sudden, the machine started typing out a reply. And Prabhupada was sitting there watching it. The type read, Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept our most humble obeisances at your lotus feet. We will be very eager to see your divine grace in 3 days in New York. Srila Prabhupada spoke out. Jai Hari Bol. The message from New York was signed by many devotees, and Prabhupada just smiled and said, this is very nice. At this time, distribution of Prabhupada's books by his disciples was taking on a new dimension in America. And Prabhupada heard the last reports. From the beginning of his preaching in the West, he had stressed pressing, printing, and distributing his book as the most important method of preaching Krishna consciousness. He said his spiritual master had told him to print and distribute books, and that he was following blindly. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had been pleased If a disciple distributed even only a few copies of his magazine. Should I continue, Prabhupada?
Change.
Okay. In the beginning years of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada had also been pleased when his disciples had distributed a few hundred copies of Back to Godhead each month. Gradually, his will for increasing the distribution of transcendental knowledge literature had manifested through certain devotees. In Los Angeles, in 1968, Kamala Krishna had daily taken a large Kirtana party downtown. The party, in addition to chanting and dancing, had circulated among the crowd and distributed Back to Godhead magazines, as many as 100 in a single day. When Prabhupada had heard these reports, he had felt encouraged and had asked for the devotees to increase. Prabhupada saw book distribution not only as the best method of preaching, but also as a fair means of income. In India, the brahmacharis in the traditional Gurukula system would beg from door to door. But in the West, such a practice would not be respected. But every gentleman will give a quarter for Back to Godhead, Prabhupada had said. Can you still the screen to me? Even as Prabhupada turned more towards India and his projects there, he continued to encourage his disciples, especially in the West, to distribute his books. Please increase your program of distribution of the public, as well as trying to place our books and magazines in the libraries. I'm simply interested in the book distribution. To the devotees in Australia, to the devotees in New York, he had written in 1971. I'm especially pleased to hear that your distribution of books and magazines has increased. Go on in this way, increasing more and more. Each time someone reads some solid information about Krishna, his life becomes changed in some way. These literatures are the solid ground upon which our preaching stands. So I want that they should be available to everyone and as many as possible. So please try for this. Please scroll. The devotees in Australia here. The best news is that you are increasing nicely the distribution of your books and literature. This is the best activity to distribute solid information about Krishna. Our preaching stands solid on these books. No other movement has such vast background of authority. And to the devotees of Africa, Prabhupada wrote, distribution of books and magazines is the most important activity. Without books, our preaching has no solid basis. Especially the African want our books.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Lalita Mohan Babu, చదువుతారు పర్లేదా?
చదువుతాను ప్రభు, కొంచెం ఫాంట్ పెద్ద చేయరా ప్రభు ప్లీజ్.
Sure, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, bro. All of a sudden, కొంచెం పైకి.
ఒక్క నిమిషం. ఎక్కడ దాకా చదివాను? టెలెక్స్ మిషన్ చదివేసాను.
కిందకి.
అదే ఇంకా కింద. ఇదంతా చదివేసాను. లాస్ట్ లో ఉన్నాం. ఒక్క నిమిషం. ఇక్కడ చదవం.
Practically, Srila Prabhupada said that if there were ample books, then everything else in ISKCON would succeed. Practically, our society is built on books. One book is not very impressive. Still, a blind uncle is better than no uncle at all. So it is very nice that one book has appeared, and that VTG is appearing at least several issues in other languages. But now try to produce at least 4 or 5 new books per year in several languages. plus regularly BTG every month. Apply yourself fully to this very great responsibility of producing numerous books in foreign languages. Back in 1968, when 10,000 copies of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya had arrived at the temple in New York, Brahmananda Swami had wondered how they would even distribute so many hundred hardbound books on the lofty philosophy of Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya. But in 1970, with the publication of another book, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, some of the devotees in San Francisco had begun to go door to door, person to person, and sell the books. And not only one or two books, but 20, 30, even 40 a day. The enthusiasm had spread as devotees in other temples had begun to sell increasing numbers of Srila Prabhupada's books. Next, the young men had begun traveling in vans, going out all day, day after day, to discover the greatest ecstasy of distributing Prabhupada's books. Then a competition had started. Keshwas boasts that the devotees in the San Francisco were the best, had drawn challenge from the devotees in Los Angeles, New York, Denver, and Dallas. A Sankirtana fever had begun, and at the center was Srila Prabhupada, assuring that unquestionably book distribution had the topmost priority of all the missionary activities. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay. So the next one, Raj Prabhuji, Gitash Prabhu. Okay, Mahatma Prabhu.
I'll read after 5 minutes, probably.
Okay. So I leave before that, 5 minutes. Prabhupada also stressed that all devotees should regularly study his books. The books were not for the public. The devotees must read them and know them. Or else, how could they preach? In Los Angeles temple room, Prabhupada would have the devotees to take part in pronouncing and chanting responsibly the daily Sanskrit verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Then individual devotees would take turns chanting these verses alone, while the other devotees would again respond collectively. Dayananda Goswami. When Prabhupada came to Los Angeles in 1972, he started the Bhagavatam class, where everyone chanted the Sanskrit. One effect was that the devotees became more grave, a little more civilized. Just at that time, things were a little wild in America. The Sankirtana parties were doing so many wild things, staying out all hours of the night, sleeping anywhere, eating anything. Previously, the temples had a little sedate and actually even a little dry because of the devotees were not giving out many books. And then when Sankirtana got a little heavy, it was almost like a rodeo consciousness. This wild Sankirtana like Prano busting. But Prabhupada came and introduced the chanting of Sanskrit mantras word for word, and the devotees submitted to a more grave and formal program. అంటే ఏంటి ప్రభు అర్థం కాలేదు అంటే కొంచెం ఇన్ఫార్మల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ అయిపోయి మళ్ళీ ప్రభుపాద తీసుకురావడం ఫార్మల్గా అయింది అంతే రోడియో కాన్షియస్ అంటే ఏంటో బ్రోంకో బస్టింగ్ ఇది కూడా ఒక డిఫరెంట్ వర్డ్. On the 1st of June, Srila Prabhupada left Los Angeles for Mexico City. He said he would return in few weeks. అంటే కొంచెం ఇన్ఫార్మల్గా అయిపోయింది, ఎక్కడ పడితే అక్కడ తింటాం, ఏది పడితే అలా వెళ్తాం, అట్లా కొంచెం ఇన్ఫార్మల్ అయిందని చెప్తున్నాడు బ్రో. అంతేనా వెళ్తాం బ్రో?
కాదు ప్రభు, అంటే స్కెడ్యూల్ లేదనమాట, ఎట్లా పడితే అట్లా. ఇదివరకు మొత్తం సిస్టమేటిక్ అండ్ స్కెడ్యూల్ గా ఉండేది కదా. ఇది స్కెడ్యూల్ లేదు, ఏదో రకంగా మొత్తం బుక్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ చేయాలనే మూడ్ లోకి వెళ్ళిపోయింది మొత్తం మూమెంట్.
కానీ అది కూడా కరెక్ట్ అప్రోచ్ కాదు.
అది ఎమర్జెన్సీ ప్రభుజీ. ప్రభుపాదులు 12 years ఎమర్జెన్సీ అంటారు యాక్చువల్లీ. అంతే. రెగ్యులర్ గా అట్లా కంటిన్యూ చేస్తే మనం బతకలేం అనమాట, స్వభావం లేకపోతే.
Okay, sure. Prabhupada conducted an intensive 3-day lecture campaign in Mexico City, spreading at National University of Mexico, okay, the Masonic Lodge, and the Theosophical Society, and appearing on a television show with some 30 million viewers. He also held initiations at temple on 2 consecutive days. Mexico was similar to India. Oh, Mexico. Okay. Mexico is in Asia only. Was similar to India, he said, with a fierce people and a tropical climate. Even when he walked early in the morning in Chapultepec Park, many people followed him back to the temple. They recognized him as a saint and wanted his benediction. Okay. Chit Sukhananda. On Sunday afternoon, there were more than 500 people in temple. After the lecture, Srila Prabhupada went back to his room alone. And there was a big kirtan with 500 to 600 people chanting, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. They became very, very ecstatic. And it seemed like a temple walls were going to come down. I was in Srila Prabhupada's room. He said, what is this kirtana? They are making so much noise. He said, they are chanting your name. And I went down to see what was going on. All the people were waiting to come into Prabhupada's room. It was like they wanted to charge Prabhupada's room to be able to see. They kept yelling his name, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. So I came up to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, they want to see. And Srila Prabhupada said, well, let them come. So I immediately arranged the people who come in. He had 2 doors in his room, and they were coming in through one door and one on the left side and leaving through the door on the right. But లోపలికి రావడానికి ఒకటి బయటకు వెళ్తారు, one by one in a line. They just filtered through like a great parade, coming and offering different words to Srila Prabhupada. Most of the people were saying in Spanish, Your Divineness, Your Holiness, please bless me. Give me your benediction. Srila Prabhupada is so empowered, Prabhupada. It's not possible. He's so empowered by Krishna. Everyone was praying for his benediction. And as the people would come in, they would bow down. Everyone extremely submissive. And there were many people with tears in their eyes to see the great saint, Srila Prabhupada. And they said to Srila Prabhupada, please give me your blessings. Prabhupada asked me what they are saying. He said, give me the blessing, give me one blessing, one benediction. So I had his hand in his bead bag, and with one finger outside his bead bag, okay, finger outside his bead bag, he would point to them and say Hare Krishna, and they were very happy. Prabhupada also traveled to Kuranavik, where he lectured out of doors at the city plaza before a crowd of thousands. The audience sat patiently and heard his words translated into Spanish. Okay, Chit Shukhananda. Okay. Just then, he had turned out our first book, Lekanshana De Krishna ESL Sustainamus De Yoga, Krishna conscious, the topmost yoga system. And Srila Prabhupada during his lecture at the plaza at Kirnaveka saw Haitya Adasa arrive with newly printed copies of this red book, La Consciana de Krishna ESL Sistema Mas Elveda de Yoga, Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he was very happy to see his book printed. He stopped his lecture and said, "Now you can all take one of these books and read them." And the people actually came up to Srila Prabhupada to get the books. We only brought about 50 copies, but all 50 copies Srila Prabhupada sold personally. The people took the liberty to ask Srila Prabhupada for an autographed book, and he autographed almost all 50 books. Wow, very nice. After the plaza lecture, there was a hotel lecture. And then Srila Prabhupada was supposed to give a devotee home in Gurnarika to take prasadam and rest. Srila Prabhupada decided he wanted to return to temple in Mexico City. He got back around 8 p.m. So from 8 in morning until 8 that night, he had not taken a bite of food, only a little water. We offered him fruit and things, but he did not want anything. When he returned to his room, his eyes were shining and his smile was broad. And he said, this was the way to happy. Work all the day for Krishna. All he wanted was a cup of hot milk with puris and a cup of sugar. He pressed the puris. He pressed the puris into sugar. Okay. And he drank the milk with a great joy and happiness. He said, this is our life to serve Krishna. Work all the day for Krishna and take a little prasadam at night. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So, Laltumohan Babu, it's not possible, right, for any ordinary soul or any soul by any chance. The kind of the preaching Srila Prabhupada did in this world, it's simply not possible when we are trying to understand this Leelamritam. He did nothing from morning. He had nothing. From morning at night, he had just puri with sugar and a cup of milk, that's it. And he was very happy that he spent 12 hours of preaching Krishna consciousness. So amazing. Any comments, Prabhu? Like Mohan? Hare Krishna.
ఏం లేదు జయ ప్రభుపాద అన్నప్పుడు ఆయన ఇంగ్లీష్ అంటే తెలుసుకోవాలి కదా కనీసం అది తెలుసుకుంటాం అంతే.
అంతే bro. Is literally important. So, no doubt. Yeah, okay. Raju Prabhu, చదువుతారా?
Yes, Prabhuji.
చాలా బాగుంది చదవండి.
Yeah. Yeah, on returning to Los Angeles, Prabhupada was again the center of uh, bargaining of Krishna conscious activities there. But again, his thoughts turned to Bombay. And in a telegram to Giriraja instructing him to settle the convenience immediately. Giriraja, after receiving Prabhupada's cable, went to Mr. N only to learn of the further complication. After Prabhupada had signed the sales agreement, the Indian government had passed a law obligating Mr. N to pay 5 lakh gains tax upon the executing the convenience. Mr. N didn't have 5 lakhs at present and told Giriraja that ISKCON should pay it and he would apply it toward the mortgage. But Bombay ISKCON didn't have 5 lakhs either. So Mr. N suggested Giriraja to take the bank loan or secure funds from ISKCON temples in the US. He promised that meantime he would not sell the land to anyone else. Giriraja had tried to get loan from bank, but he had no security or credit. He turned to some of the life members for help to see if they could act as guarantors for a loan. But although sympathetic, they could not help him raise the money. Giriraja also began to doubt Mr. Yan's word. Although naive about legal matters, Giriraja was becoming suspicious of Mr. Yan's character and his dealings. Talking with life members, Giriraja learned that actually Mr. Yan was notorious for illegal business tactics. When previously Mr. Yan signed an agreement with the C company for the very same land he was now selling to Prabhupada. The sales agreement had eventually been cancelled because C company had not gotten permission from the municipality for subdividing the plots of land. And one of the conditions of Mr. N's sale of the land had been that C company get government permission to use the land. According to some of the businessmen with whom Giraj spoke, Mr. N, through his political connection, had influenced the government against the C company. Mr. N, Mr. N, yes, Pooja. Mr. Hen had seemed very helpful, giving the devotees a good price for the land and even providing the workers for clearing it. And Mr. N had often attended Prabhupada classes, but there also seemed to be many contradictions in Mr. N's behavior. Hearing of these problems by mail, Prabhupada considered them manageable. If a government tax had been imposed, then the devotee should deal with that and also continue trying to load. Certainly, Mr. N was tricky, but Prabhupada felt ISKCON's position was strong. Giriraja should persist without becoming confused by Mr. N. Prabhupada advised to Giriraja to approach Mrs. Sumati Murarji and other supporters for financial help. It is a unique temple in the world, and if you show your wonderful abilities as American and European boys and girls to manage everything superbly, she will not hesitate to entrust you in a way. Therefore, there must always goodwill and cooperation amongst yourself for the huge task head. I always think of your Juhu place. Think of our Juhu place, and I want that I shall be the model for all the world to emulate and respect as the perfect example of Krishna conscious community. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Can I continue?
చదవండి పర్లేదు.
Yeah. Portland, Oregon, June 8, 1972. From Los Angeles, Prabhupada went briefly to Portland, where the 50 of his disciples from San Francisco, Seattle, and Vancouver, as well as Portland, had congregated to meet him. From Portland, he rode by the car to Eugene, where he lectured a large hall before an audience of mostly hippies. Every temple in US wanted Srila Prabhupada, and although Srila Prabhupada could not visit them all, he remained open to brief visits and public lectures in faraway places. He would sometimes confide to his traveling secretary that his disciples should do this preaching. But then another lecture opportunity would arise, promoted by an enthusiastic group of devotees, and Prabhupada would surprise everyone by agreeing to go. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna. మాది చదువుతారా?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandal Pranam Prabhuji.
చదువుతారు.
Yeah. ఒక పేరా చదువుతాను ప్రభుజీ, ఇప్పుడైతే సిగ్నల్ లేదు. ఆఫ్టర్ రిటర్నింగ్ టు లాస్ ఏంజల్స్ ఫర్ 4 days, Prabhupada then flew to New York for a week and then on to London for 2 weeks. In London, George Harrison and Ravi Shankar visited him several times at the Bury Place temple. When George asked if he should have his head and try to live like the other devotees, he should shave his head and try to live like the other devotees, Prabhupada replied that he should continue to be a singer. If you tell people to chant Hare Krishna, Prabhupada reminded George, they will do it. Prabhuji కొంచెం scroll చేస్తారా? On July 20th. From England, Prabhupada went to Paris, where he lectured and performed an outdoor initiation ceremony at the Luxembourg Gardens. Hundreds of people, most of them student radicals from the nearby university, gathered to watch. Srila Prabhupada began his talk saying, "You French people have a history of being revolutionary because you are looking for a better way of life." When the words were translated into French, the students cheered and applauded. Srila Prabhupada continued, "Therefore, you should inquire into this Krishna consciousness. It's a revolutionary movement for reviving our original God consciousness. About 30 devotees from Germany have come to Paris. Prabhuji, కొంచెం scroll చేయండి, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes.
And most of them, along with many devotees from England, Amsterdam, and Paris, received initiation that day at Luxembourg Gardens. In Paris, Prabhupada also attended a successful 4-day indoor festival where he was pleased to lecture and lead kirtanas each night.
Very nice. Chadam.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Signal putting, Prabhuji. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
హరే కృష్ణ చదవమంటారా ప్రభుజీ నన్ను?
చదవం.
July 26. In Amsterdam, Prabhupada installed deities of Lord Jagannatha, Lord Balrama, and Subhadra and lectured at Ondal Park before thousands of hippies. One day at Ondal Park, a devotee was addressing the crowd when Prabhupada suddenly told his disciples to stop. These people are useless, he said, just hold Kirtana. Later, he wrote to a disciple in the West. We are observing here Europe. Many hippies have become so disgusted with material life, but they are also now so much degraded that they will not hear our philosophy, simply mocking. So our devotees may become very much learn to remove their doubts and become very much fixed up in Krishna consciousness. But so far, preaching to the general public, especially the hippie class, it is better not to preach very much philosophy, just somehow or other get them to chant Hare Krishna mantra. And if some of them are curious to learn something, they may purchase one of our books. Only if they chant with us, that will help them.
Okay, చదవండి. Continue.
July 29, at Edinburgh, Prabhupada was greeted by almost a dozen reporters from various newspapers in Scotland. Kishora, Edinburgh is a stuffy, puffed up, tradition steeped place, but Prabhupada was very cordial and humble with the reporters. He was giving them so much credit about how nice the country was and how nice Edinburgh was. What nice buildings we have here. And he was saying, you have 2 colleges here. Yes, we have 2. Very proud they were. So you have many students here? Yes. It is a very affluent city, Edinburgh. Yes. Oh yes, very rich and opulent. And then Prabhupada said, so you have so many students and you have so many nice big buildings. You have so much facility for enjoyment. And they were agreeing, yes, we have all this. And Prabhupada just looked at them straight and said, then why are your universities producing hippies? They looked at one another and no one could answer. And Prabhupada began to explain how society cannot bring happiness or contentment simply with buildings, stones and windows, he said. Where is the happiness there? In Glasgow, Prabhupada lectured at Woodside Hall before an audience of almost 1,000. Kishora, Prabhupada was sitting outdays on his Vyasasana. The crowd was very large and even the balcony was overflowing. When Prabhupada arrived, the students greeted him like a pop star. They were cheering and whistling. Prabhupada immediately began lecturing very heavily on the basic science of Bhagavad Gita, how Arjuna became a successful devotee by killing all his friends and relatives. At the end of the lecture, I was a little apprehensive as to whether the people would accept that heavy lecture or not, but they cheered and applauded. When it came to question and answer time, one man came all the way down the aisle from the back of the hall and stood at the foot of the stage and looked up at Prabhupada. For several moments he spoke on and on and on, talking very proudly, I am this, I am that, and then concluding, I am God. That was the conclusion of his little monologue. The whole crowd was hushed, and I thought, what is going to happen now? Prabhupada simply looked down and let the silence continue for a few moments more. Then Prabhupada spoke, so you are God. You have nothing more to say. You're, you're not God, you're dog. And immediately the crowd stood up and applauded and cheered. The man just looked at Prabhupada and a smile came on his face. With just those few words, he had been defeated. He simply walked all the way back again to the back of the hall and was finished. It was ecstatic because the crowd was participating in the whole thing. They all realized that God is not cheap. Then we had Kirtana, and everyone in the audience was dancing. At the time, they had gotten a bit lax at the door, and the local street urchins from this low-class area of Glasgow came into the hall, and they all began dancing and singing. Some of them tried to get up on the stage. Vipada was also chanting, and so these kids were all trying to get around him and get on the stage to chant. The devotees started to push these dirty little children off the stage, but Sri Prabhupada said, don't do that. These children are all devotees. Let them chant. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Let them chant. Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro. 9. Yeah. Anybody wants to read? Lalith Brahma bro, మీకు కొద్దిసేపు చదివారు చదువుతారు ఒక 5 minutes.
ఇంకొకరు ఎవరైనా ఉంటే ఇవ్వండి ప్రభుజీ. ఇంకెవరైనా ఉంటాడు. నేను చదివాను, బాగానే చదివాను కదా.
ఓకే, నేను చదువుతాను. When Prabhupada finally got up to leave again, he reminded me some big celebrity. He was smiling and waving and walking off the stage. And the audience were also shouting, no, no, no. They began chanting, more, more, more. More, 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 more. Rest. When Prabhupada returned to London and heard that Sumati Morarji was arriving there, he went with a group of his disciples to meet her at 8. He talked with her about his plans for Hare Krishna land in June and his desire to form a board of trustees consisting of ISKCON's Bombay life members. Sumati Morarji agreed to be president of the board, which would meet regularly and give advice on anything project.
మీ వాయిస్ చిన్న వస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ, నాకు ఒక్కడికైనా మీ అందరికి
నాకు కూడా చిన్నగానే వస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ. నాకు కూడా చిన్నగానే వస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ. వాయిస్ బాగా ఫీబుల్ గా ఉంది ప్రభుజీ.
ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు బెటర్ ఉందా ప్రభు?
కొంచెం బెటర్ ప్రభు.
ఓకే ప్రభు, నేను కొంచెం పెద్దది అవుతుంది. ఓకే. When Prabhupada returned to London and heard that Sumati Morarji was arriving there, and he went with group of his disciples, okay, to meet her at airport. He talked with her about his plans for Hare Krishna land at Churu and his desire to form a board of a trustee consisting of ISKCON Bombay life members. Sumati Morarji agreed to be president of the board, which would meet regularly and give advice for managing the ISKCON's Bombay project. Okay, each trustee would also contribute a large sum of money towards developing the particular area of the project. Prabhupada asked Mrs. Morarji to donate for the temple. He would request Mr. Kandrewar to donate for a library and Mr. N for other doings. That Mr. N not yet produced the deed, however, continued to weigh heavily on the Prabhupada's mind, and he questioned Mr. N's intentions and Giriraj's competence. Okay, if the only obstacle was the 5 lakh tax, then the Prabhupada allowed instead Giriraj to approach ISKCON's wealthy member friends and secure a loan. What was the difficulty? But the Giriraj communications sounded as if such a solution was impossible. On August 27, Prabhupada telegram Giriraj, has conveyance deed been signed? If not, finish immediately and wire details. And Giriraja went to Mr. N, although anticipating Mr. N's reply. This time, however, Mr. N added yet another complication, reminding Giriraja that ISKCON had not yet obtained permission from the charity commissioner. ISKCON was a public charitable trust and so required permission from the charity commission before acquiring property. Mr. N put the burden back on ISKCON. Okay. At the charity commissioner office, Giriraja learned that he should have applied for a permission 6 months period to sign the agreement for the land. To Giriraja and the other devotees in Bombay, the affair had become a huge Gordian knot. New Vrindavan, West Virginia, August 30, 1972. Only 2 days remained until the Janmashtami celebrations, and more than 300 disables had gathered to be with Srila Prabhupada. Janmashtami, Krishna's appearance day, is always followed immediately by Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. And this year, with so many devotees gathered in a holy place with Prabhupada, the occasion promised to be especially auspicious. Prabhupada had agreed to lecture every evening in an outdoor pavilion constructed for the occasion of one of the new Vrindavan many hills. Okay, the lecture series was titled Bhagavata Dharma Discourses. And through these meetings, Prabhupada set an example for his disciples that they hold similar festivals in other parts of the country. Through Bhagavata Dharma discourse and book distribution, the Krishna conscious movement would increase its purifying influence throughout the world. Prabhupada lived during these days in a small wood frame house in New Vrindavan. He regularly received visitors and lectured in the evening. Each evening before his lecture at the pavilion, the devotees would hold a kirtana and carry Prabhupada up the long, steep hill on a palanquin. And afterwards, as they carried him back down, he would surrounded by chanting disciples, bearing lanterns and torches. Okay. Sureshwara, the path from the pavilion wound down and around on its way to the temple. I got there at a dusk and beheld Srila Prabhupada floating jubilantly in his palanquin atop a sea of devotees. There was hundreds of devotees with a tumultuous kirtan and a roaring. Plus, dust was being kicked up everywhere from all places. It looked spectacular, like a panoramic scene from one of those epic movies. The 10 Commandments or Exodus, only much more, because it was transcendental. I just fell down in the dust of Srila Prabhupada's palanquin, came gliding past. It was very wild, but devotional. Okay. Batu Gopala. It was a small palanquin carried by 4 men. There were some ropes for Prabhupada to hold onto, and it was not very comfortable to ride for him. But it was an amazing scene. Devotees with torches, electric torches, and fire torches, and lanterns, and Prabhupada coming down in his palanquin down the trail. Hundreds of devotees were surrounding him. Kirtana was roaring. I kept trying to get up close to Prabhupada and get a glance. Jahanavi Devidasi. వీళ్ళందరూ వాళ్ళ ఎక్స్పీరియన్సెస్ ఎలా ఉన్నాయో చెప్పినారన్నమాట. Jahanavi Devidasi. We were running down the steep hill in the dark amid the loud chanting of a river of devotees. Bombay kada. And our feet seemed to never touch the ground. Our feet seems to be never touch the ground. About halfway down, I catch up to the palanquin. But then I realized that being close to Srila Prabhupada meant far more than a physical proximity, and that I needed to become much more serious about Krishna consciousness in order to feel less distant from him. On Janmashtami night, Prabhupada went to the temple and listened to the reading from Krishna, Supreme Personality of the Godhead, about the Lord Krishna's birth. Around 2 a.m., he noticed many devotees nodding. "You are getting tired," he said, smiling. He ended the program. Even in the midst of such a large festival, Prabhupada was again plunged into a struggle over Bombay land. A letter arrived from Giriraja explaining his failure to secure the 5 lakh loan, owed the government, and government's refusal to grant permission. He also mentioned his suspicion that Mr. N was influencing the charity commissioner's decision and the Idanto strategy. Prabhupada had a copy of a purchase agreement with him, and he studied it carefully. Again, he concluded that his position was strong, since he was occupying the land, and according to the terms of the agreement, he had paid 2 lakhs as promised. But Mr. N not turned over the deed. Now more money was being demanded. Srila Prabhupada had said Giriraja should pay this money and get the deed. And for the permission from the government charity commissioner, there was no mention of it in the agreement. Although Mr. N tactics were apparently bewildering Giriraja, Prabhupada saw them as of only empty bluffs. He telegrammed Giriraja, "Take bank mortgage, pay off." And before receiving any reply from Giriraja, Prabhupada sent another telegram. "Why do you say convenience impossible? Everything clear in the agreement of purchase. Convenience to be executed immediately according to the terms of the agreement of purchase." Cosmologists say the pressure of Giriraja has undergone is tremendous. On Srila Prabhupada appearance day morning, he went up the hill to the pavilion to speak. It was a beautiful late summer day, and he sat on the stage on the red Vyasasana beside the deities of Radha Damodar and Lord Jagannath. In addition to hundreds of his disciples, hundreds of guests were also present. The entire audience, numbering about 1,000. The festival was newsworthy, turned off Hare Krishna movement, and reporters from the New York Times and the newspapers were on the hand, along with the television from Cruz. Prabhupada spoke examining how, although an observer might misunderstand the devotees' worship of the spiritual master, no one should think that the spiritual master was presenting himself as God. Prabhupada compared the spiritual master to a tax collector. As a tax collector collects the money only on behalf of the king, so the spiritual master receives the honor, but on behalf of the Lord Krishna, everyone should serve and bow down to Supreme Lord. The spiritual master comes and collects the obeisances and worship on behalf of God, who accepts any sincere worship of the spiritual master as an offering to himself, to collect the obeisances and worship on behalf of God, and who accepts any sincere worship of spiritual master as an offering to himself. Okay. Prabhupada ended his lecture, and a great feast climaxed the day and off of fasting. Prabhupada then returned to the back end of his little house, where he talked with some of his devotees. Okay, so ఇది ఒక్కటి చదివేసి క్లోజ్ చేద్దాం. Udayananda Goswami. Prabhupada was talking his message sitting on a straw mat outside his cabin. Suddenly 2 little kittens appeared by his mat, and they were rolling around, trembling. They were wrestling, trembling, rolling around. Immediately I thought, oh, they are contaminated. I have to get them away. The cats actually tumbled right onto the Prabhupada's feet. They rolled in a little furry ball right over Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada began tickling them under their chins. He was laughing, rubbing under their chins. Then he turned to me. Okay, sort of and in a very jolly mood, said, "Just see, even here, there is a look." Shruti Kirti. I was in charge of the kitchen, and I was too busy to see Prabhupada at all. He was there for a week, and practically the whole time I didn't get to see him. I was so upset. I was doing all the service, and I had no opportunity to see Prabhupada. Always cooking until midnight. I felt so bad. So the day before, Prabhupada left. Kirtanananda Maharaja came up to me and said, "So you are going to be Prabhupada's servant." I said, "Oh no, this is wonderful. No, this is terrible." I was so worried. Then he said, "You will be leaving tomorrow morning to go to Pittsburgh." I thought, wow, that was big. I didn't know anything about it. The following morning, Hitananda Maharaja brought me over the farmhouse Prabhupada was staying at. He took me into Prabhupada's room and said, This is Sutakirti. He is going to be your servant." Prabhupada looked, and I paid my obeisances. Kirtananda Maharaja said, "He cooks very, very well, Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "That is very good. But he has not massaged." Maharaja said, "I had never done it before in my life." And then Prabhupada said, "That's all right, anybody can massage. It is very easy." Satya Narayana. I was with a group of devotees. We could travel around the country in old bus, preaching on preaching on the bus. At it is a kitchen and a shower. Bus has a shower also. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada was outside of his cabin. When he drove up the bus, when he came on, he received him just as a regular temple and gave him Charanamrita. He looked at everything and said that there should be hundreds of buses like this. It was not such a big event for him, but he really liked it. Okay, Satsvarupa Das Goswami. I saw different leading devotees go down to that house to see Srila Prabhupada on important business. And no important business that hadn't been answered by him in letters. But I began to feel anxious that I was not going to him while others were. Finally, one day, my anxiety grew so great that I decided I would go and see his divine grace. Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's stop here. Okay, so we have read it till here. Hare Krishna. Yeah, devotee is also dropping. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for joining today. Hare Krishna, I will put a note.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mahaprabhu.
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यः वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Thank you, Prabhuji and Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.